Hello, good morning. Rashid Khan here. Thank you very much for joining our new edition of 2 Week Too Strong. Today's session is really exciting. It's about getting noticed at work. What if you have great skills? You are just marvelous at what you do. You spend the entire day working on some very important tasks, and you're the hero, right? But it's like a peacock dancing in the woods. Nobody sees you, nobody's really cared about what you're doing, nobody's excited about your progress. So how do you really make yourself noticeable at work? What really what is the guide to earn a promotion when you're really good at skills, you're really good at what you do, but how do you really make people pay attention to the great stuff that you're doing? So today's session will be delivered by Syed Imran Zia. He's joining us from the beautiful city of Alberta in Canada. It's great that he's joining us. It's not a morning time over there. It's almost, I think, closer to midnight. We are really thankful to Imran for taking out time and doing this session for us. And I can see you're sending me those questions. Where can I access the previous recording? What about the slides? So I'll email all the latest recordings and all the slides to you today in the afternoon. So don't worry about that. And I'll also paste the link for you in our tomorrow's session. Tomorrow we will have another session. It will be delivered by a Big Four partner. So stay tuned for that. Now today, without further ado, I'll hand over microphone to Imran Zia. But before I do that, one thing that you have to do is to make sure your MyACCA is up to date. The deadline is fast approaching. You have to make sure all your payments are clear before 22 September in case you're a student or affiliate, or 15 September in case you are a member. So we have an exciting agenda ahead of us. So I'll hand over microphone to Imran. Imran, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Perfect. So over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Rashid. A very good morning to everyone, and Assalamu alaikum. I'm Imran, and we are here to go through an exciting session, making your presence count, and a quick guide to earn a promotion. While I'm in Victoria, it's 10 p.m. here. We're going through a nice summer, nice sunny days we're having here, and today it rained a little bit. So um, I believe it's quite hot these days in Pakistan. So let's get started. Let's see what's ahead of us. And I think you would have an option to send your questions in the chat. And once we're done with the session, we'll go through the questions, and I'll try my best to answer most of them. Thank you. So let's get started then. Well. You will be thinking what Charles Darwin has to do with what we are discussing today, getting noticed at work, and how do we get promotion. But I think he has a lot to do with what we are discussing today, because he said it's not the strongest of the species that survives, not the most intelligent, but the one most adaptable to change. And to me, these days, in the work environment, one of the most important qualities is to adapt. How fast we can adapt, how quickly we learn, whether we go with the growth mindset or a closed mind, how quickly we can adapt to the situation. One job might be very different from another, not just from a work perspective, from an organization culture perspective. Few things might be very acceptable in one organization, and those things might not be acceptable at all in another. So how do we adapt, and how quickly we adapt to that change? And change is needed, right? There is a Chinese proverb which says, when winds of change blow, some people build walls while others build windmills. So my question to all of you is that, what are you building? Are you building walls, or you're building windmills? It's a whole new perspective when you build a wall, or you build a windmill. And another question I would want to ask that would just give you a perspective as to how good you are at adapting new things. When was the last thing when you did something for the first time? When you did something new for the first time, when was that? If it was very, very long ago, then probably you need to think as to whether you're learning new skills, you're doing new stuff. And if this was very recent, then probably it's a good thing. So let's move ahead. Um, Growth drivers have changed. Just an update. Microsoft, I thought it's an interesting one. I'll share with everybody. Microsoft Global Finance Function stats are there. Within a few years' time, from 800 people, they've moved to two people in the budgeting function. And the process or the transaction they used to spend 10 minutes, that now that takes just 10 seconds. So just imagine how technology has changed the whole spectrum from the workforce standpoint and from the process standpoint. We are heading towards that sort of future. And how prepared are we for that? Realities are changing. Not so long ago, we used to have all these things separately. Today, we have just one phone, one smartphone, and we have everything in it. Well, tablet used to be different than what it is these days. And this combination has changed as well. Well, this is an interesting one. Our children will never know about this unique relationship. Yeah. Yeah, these are interesting realities that are changing. So disruption has already happened. World's largest taxi company owns no taxis, largest accommodation provider owns no real estate, largest phone company owns no telco infrastructure, most valuable retailer has no inventory, and most popular media owner creates no content, and largest software vendor don't write softwares. So it's a total transformation the way traditional business used to happen. When the businesses are changing with a rapid pace to survive and thrive, how are we changing ourselves? How are we changing the way we used to perceive the workplace? How good we are in appreciating and embracing that change. So, choice here is simple: innovate or become irrelevant. Only 11% of the Fortune 500 companies from 1955 still exist today. Just imagine, they were top 500 companies worldwide, and they don't even exist today. Just imagine the pace of change. The average time that companies stay in the top 500 has fallen from 90 years in 1935 to 18 years in 2018. The companies used to stay for about 90 years in top 500. That time frame has reduced significantly. It's a maximum of 18 years and even less. They don't stay there. It's just new companies coming, new transformations happening, and everything changed. Now, this is an interesting one done by the Labor Department in the US. 65 of the percent of children currently in their primary schools will grow up to work in jobs that don't exist today. And that is a real change of mindset. That is the whole transformation that we are talking about. That is that quantum leap that we have to make. So 65% of the children which are in their primary schools these days, they will land in the jobs which don't exist. So have we ever thought, I know we traditionally, when we grow up, we have certain professions that we always talk about, whether it's medical or engineering or accountancy or chartered. So the reality is changing significantly, and how well prepared we are. The next one is even interesting and daunting. 94%, that's a research done by an economist, and it says 94% of the responsibilities of accountants and auditors will be completed by robots in 20 years' time. Now, being in an accountancy profession, that raises a big red flag for us, that if the work that we are doing now these days, 94% of those would be taken over by robots. There is definitely something for us to think about that. On the other hand, and I was reading it, recreational therapists are just 3% at risk for their services to get automated. So, choice for us is fairly simple. Either we change our profession to be the recreational therapists, or we deliver something that robots or machines can't deliver. Let's bring in those skills on the table, bring that human element, deliver that change that machines and robots can't do. So that's the thinking point we have. So I call it this fourth revolution. I call it intelligence revolution. AI is transforming the world. More tasks and roles will become automated. PwC's very recent survey analyzing over 200,000 jobs in 29 countries. They're talking about by 2020, and we're into this, 3% jobs will be at risk of automation. Move ahead. Late 2020s, this would rise to 20%. And by mid 2030s, 30% of jobs will be at the potential risk of automation, especially for workers with low education. So human jobs will change. New jobs would come. AI, robotics with a potential of 15 trillion boost to GDP by 2030. So this automation will free up humans to work that is generally more creative and people oriented. And the skills that we are talking about, which are going to be critical moving forward, are problem solving, empathy, listening, communication, interpretation, and collaboration. We would talk about the basic stuff that we need to do, how strong we can be in a technical knowledge, but a lot of that stuff is going to get automated. We need to bring in that human touch to our workforce. Employee experience will change too, and I think we are seeing that already, from recruitment to how people learn and develop in the job. It's everyday working activities, it's changing. If you see now, there are very few organizations where the CV review is done by a human. If there's a job advertisement and there are 200 plus CVs, nobody from the human resource function have the time to go through all 200-300 CVs. There are smart programs, there are AI, artificial intelligence driven programs who read those CVs and shortlist. And if I say, I've got 200 applicants, I need top 10 CVs. So I'll get those top 10 CVs recommended by my system, and I'll pick those, I'll shortlist some of them and interview. So we're already facing that. We're already going through that era, and workforce will become decentralized. And this trend has typically been accelerated by COVID-19. Nobody would have imagined that a lot of work can be done while sitting anywhere, on the planet. And now this decentralized work environment, and COVID has proved that it's very possible. So first thing that I want to discuss is about adaptability. And I think this is one of the most important piece when it comes to proving yourself and a job and a work situation. And I would say the ability to learn faster than the change may be the only sustainable advantage. So wherever you are, whatever you do, learning is first and foremost thing. You should always be there with a growth mindset. What I have learned today, is there anything that I can do different? So how do we become more adaptable to work environment? Let's go through that. First thing, get out of your comfort zone. I've seen many people, they're good at their job, and that's what they have been doing for many years. 10 years, 15 years, they're just sitting at that job. They're happy doing that, because what happened? They never expanded from there. They never tried to learn something new. They never try to add. And there is some sort of fear as well when you want to move out of your comfort zone, you feel that risky. And human brain is wired in a way that we don't we're not happy accepting those changes. We're wired to be do things in a certain pattern, and if we have established those patterns over a period of time, we don't want to change them. So you have to, get out of your comfort zone and do those things. um, Other piece, next one, be a better listener. And it's a very important skill. And I'm saying here, listen loudly and speak softly, right? So whenever you're in a new environment, and when you're talking and when you're using your word, it's just the knowledge that you already have. You're just expressing that information and knowledge. But when you're listening, it is highly likely that you're gaining or learning something new. And when you're listening, listen from a learning standpoint. When you go with that mindset that you're listening to the people with a very open frame of mind, you get to learn new things. Another important thing to increase your adaptability is to ask question. And that, I believe, is a very important skill, and that gets underestimated. I've seen people, they're new in there, they kind of reluctant to ask questions. Sometimes they feel, oh, I knew that was the thing, but I never asked. So don't be scared of asking question. It would in fact increase your I would say value to a discussion. People will think that you're coming with an open mindset, you're coming with an open innovative frame of mind. So ask question. You may not know all the right answers, and which is fine, but you can ask all the right questions. And I would tell you, the higher you go in your hierarchy of leadership, asking the right questions become increasingly important, because you would be dealing with a lot of uncertainty, and we all do that. The recent example is COVID-19. Everybody, nobody knew what's going to happen, how to operate, how to deal with it. There were so many questions when we were going through. A lot of our colleagues were asking, what about this, what about this? And we said, well, at this point in time, we don't know, but I know how to get there. Let's ask this question. Let's get a response from. So keep asking questions, keep that curious mindset, and that really helps. Find the positives. Change your mindset to pay attention to the positives. It's always about the glass is half full or glass is half empty, right? Think about the good things that you have there. Think about the areas where you can capitalize. Look for the opportunities. Convert the challenges into opportunities. Go with a positive frame of mind, and it makes a huge difference. It not just talk here. If you go with a positive frame of mind, with the thinking that things are gonna go in a great way and give your best effort, it does make a big difference. Find balance in your life. And it's an important one. We always talk about work-life balance, and and we say, oh, this is 9 to 5 work-related thing, and you go home, you switch that off, and your personal life starts, and vice versa. When you go to work, you switch your personal life off and you start working. But in reality, that doesn't happen, right? And I can tell you, you would have seen many occasions or times where you are at home, maybe over the weekend, and you're thinking about your work next day. And sometimes you're sitting at your work and you're stuck in thinking about some of your personal problem. So you can't really separate those two things. It doesn't happen in reality. So strike a balance between two. The more balanced you are, the more grounded and clear-headed you will be to handle the impending challenge. So for example, if you follow a good fitness regime, you're physically good. So that helps your brain power as well. You're mentally more focused. You can perform really well. So your personal life does play a role in your work life as well. So you need to make sure that you're having that fine balance. If those things are not in equilibrium, that's not the best situation you're in. Practice emotional intelligence, and that's an important piece where we are talking about AI driven things where a lot of things would happen, uh, would be done through automation and robots. So you need to practice emotional intelligence. Make sure you're in control of your emotions and are aware of the emotions of those around you. And this is a very important skill. If you're discussing an important perspective, if you know the perspective of the other person, if you're having an important discussion with your manager, and you can somehow assess, put yourself in his or her shoes and assess what might be his worries, what are the things that he or she is expecting from me. If you bring that perspective in, that would really help. You bring that lens in, and then that changes your way of thinking, and you start to do things which go in the right direction, and that really helps. So that's a brief about how you can be more adaptable. And being more adaptable really helps you well. You become a valuable employee. Being adaptable shows that you're able to handle challenges with ease. You become a better leader. You know, if you're good at managing change, you're a good leader. And that is something that I was talking about, you know, dealing with ambiguity. If you're strong and you can deal with it easily and you can demonstrate that, that does make a big difference. You become happy. When you embrace change, you've essentially found a reason to be happy no matter what the situation is, right? Because if the situation changes, and I have not seen great leaders, great people, you know, talking negative about things, they're whining about things and criticizing things. They always bring that appreciation sort of mindset, and they always embrace that change, and you become more relevant. If you're adapting to have those skills, if you have a skill set which is more relevant to your work, and since the businesses are changing and you are changing your skill set accordingly as well, you are much more relevant, right? So that's how adaptability helps in the workplace. And I feel this was a very important piece, and I've given more weightage to this. Moving ahead, how do you get noticed at work? Um, a simple one I will tell you, and which summarizes everything. You can't do a good job if your job is all you do, right? I think we just discussed there are a lot of people who are fantastic in their job. They do their 9 to 5 bit, and they're there, no complaints about them, but they never grow, right? And that's the thing. People don't get promoted to do a good job. They do get promoted to take on more responsibility. They do get promoted to demonstrate the potential to deliver more. That's where the difference comes. So to be really noticed, you will need to be outstanding in some way. This is the same in professional practice as in life, right? If you want to be noticed, you should be doing something different. Something different doesn't mean that, you know, you do something totally off. But what I'm saying here, do the things which make a positive impact. So let's go through this. What are the things that you can do to get noticed at work? Step forward, go beyond your job description. I've seen people taking this negatively. In fact, if some senior comes, hey, can you do this for me? So rather than, you know, helping those things out, they would say, well, that's not part of my job. I'm not supposed to do this thing. And that's a very negative frame of mind. You know, today, if you have an opportunity, if you have identified gaps within your workplace and you are the one who fills that gap, that makes a huge difference. If there are new projects, get involved in high visibility projects. If there are projects which are of importance to your organization, and if there is an opportunity for you to contribute, do that. At some point in time, it may look like more work, which sometimes is the case, but this would give you a huge boost. You are there representing your department or division as a very high level. That gives you a lot of visibility. So that makes a difference. Step up, step forward, speak up, demonstrate innovative thinking and your desire to benefit companies. And I think we touched upon that. If you're in a meetings, and especially if you're going in important meetings, I would suggest do your homework really well. Go through the agenda, See what are the important points that's going to be discussed. Be prepared and make sure that what are the important and particular pertinent questions that you're going to ask, what are the further explanations that you're going to give there. So be prepared for that, and if you're well prepared, you would be more confident to share your thoughts rather than just appearing in the meeting unprepared and you don't know what's happening. And if you're in getting an opportunity to present yourself in those important discussions, then you don't add value. After some point in time, people would, question your involvement, right? As they say, you have to earn the seat at the top, right? It's not meant to be for you. You have to earn it. You have to demonstrate your value. So do that. Share your ideas. Own it. Next one. It's perfectly acceptable to take credit for something that is well earned. If you've done really well in a project, if you've delivered something amazing, and you're, getting appreciated for that, it's perfectly all right to accept that. If somebody says, "Hey, Imran, you've done a fantastic job," so admit that yes, it was an accomplishment, and we have worked together, and it has made a difference. So own it, and then sharing it is also important. Share your knowledge, and this will help raise your profile. If you know something that your peers don't know, for example, if your organization has implemented a new ERP system where you know more than others, and rather than holding that knowledge to yourself, if you are the one who can share that knowledge, and if you can teach others or train others, that would be a good feather in your cap, I would say. You are demonstrating your ability, you're getting noticed, you're more valued, right? So share it, get connected. And this is an important piece, and I have a full separate slide. We're talking about branding and how to become more sociable and likable. Distinguish yourself from the crowd requires being well known outside your immediate team. Your team would know who you are, but what about the people around them? Especially with a customer focused organization, how well you are known um, outside your typical circle. Are you well known between the clients? Can you make a difference for organization? Getting connected does make a difference. And mind your manners, this is an important one. People who have the best and the most polished manners and who can communicate well will always stand out from the crowd. And that's a big difference. Communication is a very important piece. We'll discuss more in today's session. Um, and I have seen and experienced this firsthand. For example, if you're hiring candidates, and that happens in the case of promotion as well. If I have two equally qualified candidates who are delivering at the same amount or same quality of work, I would naturally be inclined towards a person who is really good in terms of communication. That does make a difference. So that's a huge thing. Work on your communication really well. It's about how you speak, what to say, how to write, how to communicate, and how to go through um, the corporate chains. So that's quite important. So these were few things how you get noticed at work. So now here's a important piece which I feel is about personal branding and reputation. This is backed by the research as well. Let's go through that. 85% of your financial success is due to your personality and ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead. Only 15% is due to technical knowledge. Well, yes, I felt the same way the way you are feeling now. We always emphasize a lot on technical skills, which is great. But in your career and in your life, when you start moving up to the higher leadership roles, other skills, as mentioned here, your ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead, they become very important. If you talk about any hierarchy, say accounting and finance, and if you're in any organization starting from entry level, so first couple of promotions, 2 3 4 promotions, you can go through probably fairly easily just to being technically right. If you're doing things correctly, you're fine, you're delivering your work on time, you're meeting your deadlines, you're doing the basic stuff right, it's easier to get promoted at those levels. But when you get to start to get into the mid-level management, then all those other factors come into play: your communication, your leadership, your team player, how you present yourself. All these things start to get more and more weight. And when you get to senior management level, there's a whole different world there out there. It's good to be technically, strong, and you must, that's a prerequisite, but there's a whole new spectrum of skills that you should have to be there. So, and that's the research that tells you there. Now, the most significant, in my opinion, the most significant non-financial cost may be the negative reputation of your function. In whatever function or department you're working, if you don't carry a good reputation within the organization, you will be stuck, right? If your clients in whatever organization, in whatever role we are working, either I'm an accountant or I'm a CFO, or if I'm an auditor, the people that we are dealing with, there are clients. If I'm auditing my other people or organization, those auditees are my clients. So what sort of reputation I have amongst my clients? If I'm doing an accounting and financial analysis job, the people who receive those numbers or budgets that I'm creating, how satisfied they are from me. So if I'm having a negative reputation myself or the function in which I'm working, it's the biggest non-financial cost that you have to bear, and that is not good for you to grow within the organization. How to become likable? How do you develop that likable personality, gelling around, going well with the people? That plays a huge role. A study shows that if a person is likable and gives a well-organized argument, managers tend to comply with his suggestions even if they disagree. And I've seen that happen in the real life. When I was doing those auditing jobs and we were discussing those audit observation with auditees, at some point in time, I've seen her say, well, you know what? I'm not really 100% sure what you're saying, but since I have that relationship going, since Imran, you're telling me this, I'll take that. I'll accept this. So what was that? That was that element of trust. That was that relationship. And one more element, the research says to convince humans, it's not enough for you to be just technically correct. We sometimes feel, especially in accounting and finance roles, that if I'm technically correct, everybody would agree to me, but that's not the reality. You have to have that emotional core going. You have to have that relationship going. You have to build that trust between people so that people start trusting you. And then when you present your facts, it would be more easy for them, to buy that idea. And that makes a huge difference when you're, going on the route of promotion. If people are happy and satisfied, your clients are happy, that makes a huge difference. So how do we become likable? you know um, People care less about what you think than why you think it, and I'll explain that. When I do these sessions with at many different settings, and we ask that question from audience, what are those, can you just name or few managers or senior leaders you've worked with and you really like them? And if I ask them, what are the qualities that you liked about them? And all the qualities that they talk about: good listening skills, humility, you know, independent mindset, all those qualities are not like inborn qualities. These are all qualities that can be learned. You can practice and you can learn that, right? So it's not that somebody is born with those qualities. You can always train yourself and you can always learn those things. So when you're putting forward your opinion, I think this should happen this way, and I think this should happen that way. Other people may conceive it as your opinion unless you answer the why question. You have to answer why in when you're putting your perspective forward. So then it lacks then it explains that what was the logical thinking process which led you to come to that conclusion. But if you don't give them a why, if you don't answer why you think it, people would just based on their own perception and bias, we feel that why they would say, oh, this person is saying this because maybe he has 1, 2, 3, 4 these objectives, maybe he thinks he would benefit out of it. So it's very important when you share your ideas and thoughts, explain really well the why. The why becomes very important. Identify and expand areas of commonality when interacting with others. I was talking to a business development director of a multinational organization, and he once told me when they go on a business development meetings, they have been trained to talk about areas of common interest 70 to 80% of their meeting time. They're not discussing business in most of their time. They're hardly discussing business in 20 to 30% of their meeting time. What they're discussing about the commonalities, they're establishing a rapport. They establish a relation. We are human beings. We deal with human beings. So if we want to have that relationship going, we need to have that level of trust and that rapport established. So invest in that, do that, understand and adapt to communication style. Always gauge how other person is communicating with you. If other person is very destructive, very calculated and methodical, then you should measure that and calibrate your speech accordingly. If you go and make overblown statement like using the words always and this and that, then it may offend somebody. So be cautious, understand and adapt to the community. Don't pass judgment. Next one, important piece. If people think that you are a person who has a preconceived mindset, who would think and perceive things in a set manner, they would not think, they would be hesitant to come to you to share things. But if somebody thinks, no, this guy is thinks and sees things really openly, and he's open to listen, and then he filters the information in a very independent way and it comes up with a very objective outcome, then people would come to you. So don't have that judgmental mindset. Last but not the least important one, pull more and push less. Whenever you're dealing with people, don't throw your ideas at them. Pull more and let them take the lead. And this is the human psychology. If somebody, you know, comes up with their own solution, then they really own it rather than you imposing something on them. So if you apply all these techniques into your workplace, you really will be able to, have a good rapport established with your colleagues, and you must invest in that. And that plays a huge role when you are considered for a promotion as a candidate, how your clients feel about you, how your colleagues feel about you, how your team thinks about you. And you have to work on these areas apart from being great. And we all know, I'm not discussing those things here, which I feel are understood, that you have to meet your deadlines, you have to deliver the work that has been given to you, you have to do the minimum which is part of your job description. We are talking about a little beyond that basic stuff. Other important pieces in understanding the business, I feel. I would tell you, I was once in a flight and I met a senior finance lady, and we started discussing things, and she said she's trying to get promoted, but she's finding it difficult, and it's hard for her to get promoted. So I started discussing. I said, what is your business strategy? What you guys do? What about your customers? And what is your influence on those? And she said, well, I work in finance, so I don't deal with this business strategy, and I don't know what sort of customers we have. And I said, well, if you are in a senior role or you're expecting to be in a senior role, you must know these things, right? You must know what your business strategy is. You must know what are your important clients are. So understanding of business is the key area for you to demonstrate. And in a survey done, there's a biggest complaint that the top executives had about the mid-level management. They say they don't understand the business they are in. If you're up for a promotion for a leadership role, you must demonstrate your ability that you know the business inside out. So three things with regard to business, which I believe are very important. The landscape of your business market. Truly understand the industry you are in. What are the key dynamics? What are the risks? What are the strengths of your organization? How the external factors can change and affect your business. Important things. So if single thing changes, you know where your business is heading. And when you have that mindset, you'll bring into those discussions, and then people will feel and say, yes, this guy is really tuned in. That makes a difference. Financials, you should really know how does your company makes money, profit margins, what are your competitors. Must have that knowledge. You have to have that holistic overview of your organization and know well about the customers as well. What are their priorities and challenges? Because if you think from a customer standpoint, what do your customers want, then probably you can think from that mindset. And when you're putting a thought process and getting involved in strategy settings and policy discussions, you can bring in that perspective, and that is very valuable. So use this info in your strategic thinking and decision making. It shows that you're really dialed into the business and you're the person who really gets it, right? So you have to be that person who's perceived to know things, who knows how business works, who knows inside out what is important for the business, and that really helps. Now, some key considerations for promotion. Let's start with loyalty. Let's take a break. Seeing your success as the success of your business. Work hard to share the success of your company. It's really important. You have to believe, you have to be loyal. You should see your success as the success of your organization. You should see if your organization is successful, then you are successful. Deliver something to make it happen. Other thing, from a management point of view, managers or senior managers, they don't like when you bring problems to them. They like when you bring solutions to them. So wire your mind in a way where you go with solutions, not with the problems. Show progress. An important thing, and I've seen this happen in many organizations, do a goal setting discussion with your bosses early in the year. As the start of the new fiscal year, and you say, okay, for this year, what are the objectives of my organization or my department? And based on that, I'm setting these as my personal objectives. I'm gonna do this, this, and this. Have that clear discussion with your bosses and say, here are my goals. What do you say about it? Do you think I'm setting my goals right to support my organization and support my function? And if you have their involvement, that makes a huge difference. And then keep on having those meetings on a frequent basis with them, and to say whether you're on track and what do they think about your performance. Because if it's very obvious you've set the goals with them and they see you progressing, then it becomes a simple process. Well, you set your goals which are supportive of your functional or organizational goal, and you've delivered, and it's fairly easy. It's not always about money. Probably with this mindset, you can somehow at some point in time, I've seen people getting promotion, but they're not successful. Because if you're thinking just, okay, it's an important consideration, and I do know that you cannot totally discount the factor, money factor, but it's not all. When you're accepting a job, it's a total package. It's what you're going to do, how you can make a difference, how you can deliver in that job. I've seen people getting those jobs and they're failing in there. Well, failing is not bad if you're failing in a good way, but if you're unable to deliver the minimum required, then it's not good for you from a career standpoint as well. So you may not be able to cope with the new role if you're just thinking about the money. Communicate with your boss. Think of ways you could improve the way your job is done and let them know. An important thing is make it loud. So when you're thinking about the job, don't just see why don't see that we are doing a certain things. Try to challenge the conventions. I like that dialogue of the Batman movie, and where the Joker's popular dialogue, and he says, um, you are remembered by the rules you break, not by the rules you follow. So I'm not saying you go and start breaking the rules, but what I'm saying here, keep that critical mindset. If there are certain processes in your organization, assess those from a critical mindset as to why are we doing that. Sometimes I've done that discussion and I go and ask people, why are we doing that? And people say, oh, this is the policy. Okay, this is the policy, it's fine. But why is this policy? Policies are here to support the business. If this policy or this process is not really adding value to the organization's ultimate objectives or the bottom line, so why do we have that? So have that critical mindset. Think how you can improve things, and then go and discuss with your boss. Hey, we have been doing this way. What about this? What about that? And that shows a lot of initiative. Makes your boss think good about you. Be proactive. Don't wait for your seniors to tell you what to do when the tasks that you do regularly. And I see if somebody asks you something that you are supposed to do, it's not a very good sign. Where, for example, you're supposed to deliver a month end closing on 10th of every month, and then on 10th or 11th, somebody knocks your door, hey, Imran, where's that report? And you're like, oh, yes, oh, sorry, I'm doing that. Don't get to that. Be proactive, deliver. You people should not be reminding you as to what you're supposed to deliver. Be sociable, and we've discussed this in networking and branding, how you do that is an important piece. Uh, be a team player. This is an important one. Rarely someone with an underperforming team gets promoted. That's important. You have to have good relationship with your superiors and with the people who are reporting to you as well. You are part of a team. Ultimately, you have to take the whole team forward, right? You cannot, and I'll tell you one more thing. If there are other intelligent people within your organization who are ambitious, don't consider them as your competition. Be friends with them, learn from them, because you support each other, right? Tomorrow somebody would be, in a different role, and you never know, you may need them. So there might be different type of people, especially the people who are ambitious. Don't take them as your competition. Work with them, be partner with them, take everybody along with you. So be a good team player, be courteous, do favors. And research says those more likely to do favors for others were more successful in the long term due to their circle of goodwill. And I've seen that happen many times in the real world. You're doing things which, at that point in time, which may look like as if, it's kind of additional load on me. I'm just doing it for no reason. But in the long run, you will win, because people would remember, oh, yeah, this guy is really good. He helped me with that. He helped me with this. Oh, yes, when tomorrow when you need something, they would really be there for you. So communicate effectively. What to say and how to say, important piece. We can go into huge details, how you communicate through emails, how you talk to over the phone, how you conduct face-to-face meeting. There's a whole new area in terms of communication, but I would briefly say when you're saying bring in industry acumen, organization awareness, when you talk about this, they, people should know that you're aware what's happening in the organization. And when you're, how to say it, speak with confidence, concise language, and be authentic, you know. And in terms of email, I've just quickly mentioned, if you see, I've seen a lot of, sometimes in terms of communication, I've seen a lot of back and forth emails. But whenever I see, email is, by the way, is not the best medium of communication. It is a good medium, but if you see some emotion is getting involved in those emails, pick up a phone and handle it right there before it goes out of the hand. So let's move towards the end. And I'm going to ask you this question. Are you a meerkat or an ostrich? When an ostrich sees a danger coming, ducks his head in the sand and thinks he's safe. While on the other hand, when meerkat sees something different and happening, it stands tall, scans the horizon, strategizes, puts the strategy in place as to how to handle this. We all know that these changes are happening and it's coming. How are we reacting? Are you a meerkat or an ostrich? Or what are you doing today to be more like an ostrich? And, you know, it's a funny one and I quite like it. You need to decide your role that you're going to play in your organization. We've discussed. You can choose to sit in the front row or in the third row. When you sit in the front row, it's much more challenging, right? You're facing it right up. And you can probably sit in the third row, which is quiet, just go with the tide. But that's not an area where you grow. If you really want to grow, you have to lead from the front. Be there, face it, deliver it, take it as a challenge, get motivated, and that's where you really grow. But it's your choice. You can choose to be that 9 to 5 guy who sit in the third row, do the job, tick the box, done. Or you can really be in that driving seat. It's up to you. And I will leave you with this food for thought. And a concluding one, people don't get promoted for doing their jobs really well. They get promoted by demonstrating their potential to do more. So that's the bottom line. How you demonstrate your potential to do more. People say, I do a great job. I always have great performance evaluation at the year end. I don't get promoted, right? Yeah, that's the answer. You're just doing your job. If your job is all you do, then that's not enough. Step out. And with an interesting thought, I'll leave you guys. The power to write your own story lies within you. You can choose an adventure or a mystery, a romance or a thriller, a comedy or a tragedy. And you can, if you so choose, write your own happy ending. It's all in your hands, guys. Try your best, be there, and achieve. Well, thank you so very much. This was from me today, and I'll be happy to take any questions. Rashid, do you have any question? I'll be happy to answer those.
Yeah, what an amazing session, Imran. Thank you very much for these wonderfully delivered slides. We have a lot of questions from all our attendees. So let's go to the questions. एक हमारे पास बहुत ही interesting question आया था. As you know, in Pakistan, the girls work in male-dominated workplaces where you have more men and less women. और फिर जो आपने tips share की हैं to be more sociable, to be more interactive, to be a team player, all those traits that you talked about. तो question ये आया है कि what to do when you're hesitant to speak to other gender. Uh, you're in an environment where majority are men and you're a young girl. तो उस सूरत में what is your advice? since you've worked in the Middle East, you worked in Pakistan, and now you're in Canada, so you personally have experienced that cultural shift. So, what would be your advice for young women who are listening to us, how they can build their profile in an organization dealing with this particular problem?
Amazing and very good question, and it's a bit tricky one as well. So it's first, as you rightly explained, I started off my career in Pakistan, moved on to Middle East, and the work environment was different, and from there to Canada, it's very different again. But it also varies from organization to organization. Coming to this particular scenario, is that maintain that professional relationship. When I say professional, it's okay to network, but sometimes it gets a bit tricky. The lines between professional and a bit of personal start to get hazy a little bit, but you have to draw those lines fairly clearly as to what is or what are my professional obligations. Now, having to have a good relationship with your colleagues may not necessarily means that you have that relationship on a personal level, but that would mean a great working relationship. If tomorrow you need some help, people should be happy to give you a helping hand. And if they need any support and help with you from you, they should be comfortable coming to you and talking to you. I know it's a bit tricky situation. It's not that straightforward, especially in that environment. You're a young girl and your organization is more male dominant. It gets a bit tricky, and you have to take a very cautious approach that you don't mix the two personal and professional relationship things. So you be professional as far as work is concerned, you be there, be open minded, think, listen to other people, give your suggestions, and probably you can maintain it at that level. So yeah, I think staying more, keeping your discussion at a more professional level, sometimes they go a little bit out, it becomes hard, you know. But if you keep a consistent approach as to how you are maintaining and dealing with those at what level, after a certain point in time you will have that reputation established within an organization, and people would know your style of operation and the way you work, to what level you deal with, and at what level which are not acceptable. There might be other areas as well which you would want to consider, how your organization culture is in general. If it's a very open kind of culture, of it's or it's a different culture, you have to refer to the policies or procedures that govern that overall structure or the culture of your organization. Yeah.
Right. Nicely put. Thank you very much, Imran, for that answer. The question was actually asked by Tayyiba Rauf. Sorry, I forgot to mention her name. We have another very interesting question. This is asked by Awais Akbar. He has written sort of a comment that I go beyond my job description at work. Um, this this is the reason, but this has caused one major problem. My seniors do not do any work, and I am junior in my team, so I cannot refuse my seniors. So what he's trying to say is that since he's so nice and congenial and a team player, that at the end of the day he's doing all the work and his seniors are just sending him work, throwing all the work at him and not really assisting him in any manner. And plus, if he refuses or if he says no, then his relationship with his seniors will get hurt. So how can he deal with this particular situation, Imran?
Yeah, again, a tricky situation to be in. So one good way of doing it is to have that goal setting exercise at the start of the year, when you go with sit with your colleagues and say, hey, what are the functions? What I've also seen and experienced, and I have been doing that as well for myself as well. I see what are the objectives or the function of my function, or what are the main strategies that my department or function are trying to achieve. Take those main things, and how can I within my role contribute towards that. So I derive my personal, not personal, my work related goals, and I had session with my seniors. Hey, this is the start of the year. I'm setting my goals for this year so that at the end of the year, my performance is evaluated based on these goals. So then it makes it more objective. So here are the things that I'm going to do, and these are the things that really help the organization and the department to go forward. So now my activities are aligned with the activities of the organization or the department. So on a frequent basis, when I have my discussions with the supervisor, these are my objectives, that's what I'm doing. And then when I start getting other stuff which are not linked with those goals, which I have agreed with my supervisors with their willingness, then I can have another discussion as to, okay, these are my core objectives. Now I'm having these additional tasks on my plate. How would I relate to these objectives? Then these would affect the achievement of my objectives. Shall I focus on those mainly? So having to have that objective discussions with your supervisors. And if you're direct super, how are you, what sort of visibility you get for, as you know, it is mentioned that is getting to do a lot of work, but are you getting noticed? Do people know? And I think it doesn't take long where people would know who is the real person who is doing all that stuff, and that would be your time to take the real well-earned advantage. So yeah, stay optimistic, manage it in a way, in a goal setting fashion where you manage your workload and keep your work which are linked to the organizational objectives, and sooner or later you will get the credit of that hard work as well, I'm sure.
Awesome response. Thanks, Imran. Let's take another question. It's by Rahil Khwaja. He's asking how to get over the fear factor when planning to come out of our comfort zone. As you know, when you become comfortable, you're good at something, and then how can you really challenge yourself to come out of that comfort zone and do something new, challenge yourself every day? So उसके लिए क्या किया जाए, Imran?
अच्छा, एक इम्पोर्टेंट चीज ये है कि जैसे मैंने डिस्कशन में कहा था, फेलिंग इज नॉट बैड, इन नॉट इन दैट सेंस कि जो आपकी बेसिक वर्क रिक्वायरमेंट है आप वो पूरी नहीं कर रहे हैं and you're failing there. I don't mean that. When you're trying something new, and if you have not failed in a very long time, it seems you haven't tried something new. So don't let the fear of the failure drag you back. तो जब आप कुछ नया करने वाले हो, आप take all the stakeholders into confidence. Look, this is not my job. This is something new I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give it my best. But अगर कल को नहीं होता तो, but at least I will learn. I will try it again and I'll do it better. So उसमें different strategies you can use as to how to minimize the impact in case it goes bad. And एक और important चीज, when you're taking everybody along with you, people are aware that this is something brand new for you. This is something that you haven't done before. Even if you're not right there, but at least you have given the best effort. So don't stop yourself with the fear of failure. Take key stakeholders on board when you're doing. Don't try something on your own and nobody knows that, hey, you were doing something this and now this disaster has happened and nobody knew about it. So take everybody on board, have those conversations. Look, I'm doing this. This is my role. I've been doing this for a very long time. I'm very comfortable doing that. Everybody happy. I need to really expand. I'm into accounting department. I need to go into budgeting. I need to learn something about budgeting. So I'm gonna do that. Maybe आप थोड़ा सा टाइम अपना एडिशनल स्पेयर करके स्लोली, जिसको कहते हैं जॉब शेडोइंग, अगर आप कोई नई चीज लर्न कर रहे हो, आप अपना when you've delivered your job, you spare your time for yourself and start learning slowly from the people who are actually doing it, and gradually you will build that confidence. उसमें आपकी एग्जिस्टिंग जॉब भी कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं होगी और आप नई स्किल भी सीख लोगे ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. अ बिट मोर वर्क, वो कहते हैं कि every opportunity when it comes, looks like it's more work, but in reality, when you grab onto that, that's a good opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much, Imran. And we're receiving a lot of praise for this presentation and this session. So thank you very much. And we have a lot of questions, but we cannot answer them all today because we're running out of time. So how they can reach you if they have more questions or they need mentoring, they need some advice in their careers, what's the best way to reach you on social media, Imran?
So a couple of things, Rashid. The questions that you received for this session, if you can share those with me, I'll be happy to answer those questions. And will you be able to send those back to them, or and this is one way I can answer these questions. Share those questions with me. I'll put my response in, and you can share them back. Other thing, I have my LinkedIn account, so you can approach me through my LinkedIn account. And I have my personal email address mentioned in that account as well. So reach out to me if you have, drop me an email, drop me a quick note, and I'll be more than happy to help you in any capacity I can. And I really feel that ACC has played a very important role in my career. I'll be more than happy to give it back to everyone.
Thank you very much, Imran. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending this very informative and highly useful session. We'll be back tomorrow with another session tomorrow morning. We'll be having a senior territory partner of one of the big four firms in Pakistan. It's going to be a great session. It's about how you can become a big four partner. What are the skills, traits, behaviors that you really need to develop? So we'll see you tomorrow again. I'll and some people were asking if we can get hold of these slides. I'll contact Imran and we'll get his permission, and we'll definitely share the slides if he agrees, as well as the recording of this session. So thank you very much. Enjoy rest of the day, and good night to you, Imran. Have a good night's sleep.
Thank you very much. Good night, and thank you everybody for joining.
Sure. Take care. Goodbye.